Class 5, today we are going to study a new lesson called The Little Bully, that is Unit 8 in your textbook. So this story revolves around a boy named Harry. He is a small but strong boy who loves to pinch and prick the other kids. But later in the story, Harry gets his own medicine and he realizes that the way he treats his classmates was wrong. But before we get into the story, let's learn these 5 new words. Number 1, bruise. Bruise means injury by blow to body. Pem pil. Number 2, hoarse. Hoarse means rough and deep sounding. O chang, o chen. Number 3, pincer. Gripping tool. Zai zhe. Here, this picture here, this is a pincer. And in a crab, this part is the pincer. Number 4, stalk. Stalk is the main stem, guang. But here in a crab, this part is the eye stalks on crab. This is the eye and this part is the stalk, a guang. Number 5, nipped. Nipped means pinch. Pi nilopon, sick. Nipped to pi or sick. Now let's start with the story. The Little Bully. Once upon a time, not so very long ago, there was a small boy called Harry. Although he wasn't very big, he was strong and he loved to tease all the boys and girls who went to school with him. Tease omziatu chai or chai kol gantiangte. So Harry loved to tease all the boys and girls who went to school with him. What he loved to do the most was to pinch. He could make a big bruise appear in half a second. Another trick he played was pricking people with a pin. So there was this little boy named Harry, and he loved to tease the boys and girls. He pinched them and he pricked them with a pin. Pinin at sunchina, so an asik belchini, and he loves doing that. So you can guess how all the children hated him. They tried pinching him back, but that was no good because he could always pinch harder. They didn't like telling the teacher because that was telling tales. So you can tell that because of his habit, Harry was hated by all the other children. And when they tried to pinch him back, he could always pinch them harder. That is why that was no good. And they don't want to tell the teacher because that was telling tales. Telling tales means to tell something about someone so that they get into trouble, and because of this, they don't want to tell their teacher. It so happened that the class went for a picnic to the seaside for a whole day. All the children were most excited. Seaside too, did we come? So the class went for a picnic to the seaside for a whole day, and as you could imagine, they were all so excited. On that day, on the picnic day, the sun shone bright. Shone is past tense for shine. The sun shone bright and all the children were wild with excitement. They crowded into the train and sat down, but nobody wanted to sit next to Harry because he always pinched. So on that day, they were all so excited. The sun was shining bright and they all jumped into the train to go to the seashore, but no one wants to sit next to Harry because he always pinched. When they arrived at the seaside, out jumped all the children with a shout of joy. Down to the sands they raced, hand in hand, but nobody took Harry's hand. Nobody went near him. So when they arrived at the seaside, they were all so happy. They jumped out, they were holding hands and they were running, but no one took Harry's hand and no one went near Harry. Harry was angry. He went to a sandy corner near a rocky pool and sat down by himself. He took out his lunch and looked at it. It was a good lunch. There were 2 hard-boiled eggs, 6 jam sandwiches, 3 pieces of bread and butter, a ginger cake, and a bar of chocolate. He would eat it all by himself. He wouldn't offer anything to anyone. And since the other children did not want to play with Harry, did not want to hold Harry's hand, he was angry. So he went to a corner, to a sandy corner, and he sat near a rocky pool. And he took out his lunch. He looked at his lunch and It was a very good lunch. He has hard-boiled eggs, jam sandwiches, bread and butter, ginger cake, chocolate, and he was going to eat that all by himself. He wasn't going to offer to anyone. Just as he was beginning on the eggs, he heard a hoarse voice near him. "Good morning. I am so pleased to meet a boy like you." Harry turned around and stared in fright. Whatever do you think he saw? Harry saw a monster crab walking sideways out of the pool. His eyes were on the ends of short stalks as he looked most queer. He held out his front claw to Harry. Harry put out his hand to shake the crab's claw, but to his surprise and anger, the crab opened his pincers and nipped his hand so hard that the little boy yelled. So just as he was beginning to eat the eggs, just as he was beginning to eat his lunch, he heard a hoarse voice. And as Harry turned around, he was frightened because that voice came from a monster crab, and that crab was walking sideways out of the pool. And that's how a crab walk, they walk sideways. So there is this crab that was walking sideways out of the pool, and this crab was talking to Harry, and his eyes were on the ends of short stalks, and he looked most queer. Queer means makdangday, danglambik. And he held out his front claw to Harry. Here, this part is the claw. When he handed out his front claw to Harry, Harry put out his hand to shake the crab's claw. At si Baydo na mo tiya akut kada tswa ko biya, but to his surprise and anger, the crab opened his pincers at na and nipped his hand. At si Baydo na mo tika at si Baylawa at na kanin a pincers kan Harry to asik the ni nipped sick pinch. And Harry yelled, "Ah, here is my good cousin," said the crab pleasantly, and to Harry's horror, he saw a large sandy lobster crawling heavily out of the pool. Before the little boy could stop him, the lobster took his hand in his great pincer-like claw and pinched it so hard that Harry yelled in pain. And as the crab nipped Harry's hand, there's this lobster that was coming out from the water. And before Harry could stop the lobster took out his pincer and he started pinching Harry so hard, and Harry yelled in pain. Then he stared at the pool in surprise, for out came sandy-colored shrimps and prawns and more crabs and another large lobster, and they pricked Harry till he was soon black and blue. And as Harry looked at the pool, more shrimps and prawns and crabs and lobster came out of the pool. And they came to Harry, and they all pinched and pricked Harry till he was black and blue. Black and blue means having bruises all over your body. "Don't you like it?" said all the creatures in surprise. "Why, we were told you would love to see us because you were a champion pincher and pricker yourself. Come, come, join in the fun." Harry leapt to his feet, crying loudly. His lunch rolled into the pool, and when the crabs and lobsters saw it, they ran to it and began to feast eagerly. Harry saw that they had forgotten him for a time, and he turned and ran for his life, tears streaming down his cheeks. And so when Harry didn't play along, all the creatures were surprised, and they asked Harry, "Don't you like it? We were told that you love pinching and pricking, so come, join the fun. Let's pinch and prick each other." But Harry was in pain. He leaped to his feet, leapt is past tense of leap to zwang tou, and he cried loudly. And as he jumped, as he leaped, his lunch rolled down into the pool. And when the crabs and lobsters saw food, they began running towards the food, and they started eating the food. And when Harry sees this, now is the chance to run away from all these creatures. And he was crying as he was running. "They only did to me what I keep doing to the other children," he thought. "But how it hurt, and how I hated those crabs and lobsters. I suppose the other children hate me too. Well, I jolly shan't pinch or prick anymore." And as he was running, he was thinking to himself, those creatures, they were doing doing to me what I was doing to the other kids. But it hurt so much, and I hated those crabs. Now I realize, now I understand the other children must have hated me too. And then he made a promise to himself, and he said, I will never pinch or prick anyone anymore. And that's all for today.